to feel the desire to make you my own. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dee-lee-dum, boo.
Welcome to the Ricardo Del California show. Today I am with Erica Smith, actress. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's definitely a delight to have you. Erica, you are an actress and you are originally, I believe you said, from Massachusetts. For our guests that don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into acting.
Okay, well, I grew up in a pretty small town and there wasn't a lot going on. So I relied on my imagination to entertain myself. And part of that was movies and music, especially like I loved classic Hollywood films from like the 30s and 40s. I got really into that. So I became really interested in film and music, and I watched a lot of movies, I listened to a lot of different music, and then eventually I decided that that's what I wanted to do too. I wanted to be part of all of that.
And so you moved away from Massachusetts, and did you start getting a degree like in acting, or tell us a little bit about that?
So I moved to New York City because that was where a bunch of my favorite artists started their careers. So I wanted to emulate them and be like them and be a part of it, like the song says. And so I went to school there. I studied music and acting. I got a degree in singing and composition from Hunter College, and I went to the neighborhood playhouse for acting.
Okay, and you got I believe it was a degree in fine arts, I believe?
In music.
Oh, okay, music fine arts.
Mhm.
Now, for those of us who would like to learn a little more about your background, there's just much more to the acting here because obviously you do some singing. Have you done some of your own music?
Yes, I have. I've recorded a bunch of original songs over the years, working with different producers. And right now, I'm almost ready to release a full album of all original music. And it's called Calendar Girl. And it's coming out this year in 2022.
Oh, wow. And with that, are we going to find that on like Apple Music or on Amazon?
It's going to be on all of the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, all of it.
Okay. Calendar Girl coming out 2022. Check it out. All right. Very, very nice. What would you say the genre of this type of music is going to be?
Well, it's pop. I have a lot of different influences. I mean, I love every kind of music, I would say, as long as it's well done. So a lot of those influences, you can hear them in my music, especially jazz and rock. But I would say that overall, it fits into the pop genre.
Okay. Who are some of the musical artists that influence you?
Well, my favorite musical artist growing up was Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And I also loved like Joni Mitchell, and I loved Bob Marley, and Billie Holiday was probably my favorite singer and still is. I love Dolly Parton. And yeah, growing up, I loved Britney Spears and that kind of pop music as well.
I mean, very, very eclectic. We got from Britney Spears to Dolly Parton. We're going back to Bob Marley, Billie Holiday. Definitely some well-rounded musical interest there. So this,
I don't want to like reveal my total dorkiness, but I also like into like classic rock. I'm very much like I want to understand things from like the inside out. And my friends used to say that driving in my car was like going to the Library of Congress because I always had like these to them it was like education about the history of music, all these recordings playing in my car. And in school we also learned about classic music and classical music, Beethoven, and one of my favorite artists of classical music, I would say would be Chopin, and I loved hearing about Liszt because they told me that he was like the first rock star because he used to have these like cool concerts and like just go nuts. He was like just a total spaz on the piano. So I love all kinds of music, even going back, you know, to a couple centuries.
Well, I think that's amazing because a lot of musical artists will start off with somebody inspired them, and then we'll go back to whom inspired them, and on and on and on. I mean, for example, like, of course, like with Elvis Presley, he loved the blues, but then he went back all the way to the gospel music where it came from. So, kind of taking a journey back in time of the music that you inspired you, all
Mhm.
the modern music, and then hence we have Calendar Girl, which shall be coming out in the next few months. Is there a release date do we have?
Not yet. We're aiming for late spring, but I think it's probably going to be fall by the time we get everything ready for the release, which involves shooting a few music videos and a few singles ahead of the record.
Okay.
So,
Well, you know what? That's the way they do it. So be looking forward to one of the singles.
the first single to come out that we've been shooting the music video,
Oh, the music
is
video.
called "The Frequency of Love."
Mm.
A very my vocal inspiration for that song was Minnie Riperton. I don't know why. I just had her in my ear, so it's like very smooth and sensual. And then I try to hit some high notes like she did. So yeah, let's see if any of my wigs I wore for the video are out. No, they're not.
They are not out, although
No, they're not out.
we have quite a collection of wigs, which I see. If I might ask, okay, so each of these wigs, does it represent a different character or a persona that you're putting on? Tell us a little bit about the wigs.
So this is my Marilyn wig. This is what I use when I play Marilyn Monroe, which I just came off a gig in Vegas at the Bellagio. So this is Marilyn here. And let's see. This one, I wanted something because I like rocking my red hair, but sometimes it's just not fabulous enough when you're doing a video and you want like a big look, you know?
We need fabulous to the 10th power going on here. This definitely adds maybe 11. I'm going to say this could be an
So
11.
this reminds me of Mariah Carey, like when she first came out wearing
Yeah.
it. Going for red, but this is what they had. And sometimes like a wig they styled it for me as well. But sometimes a wig will inspire a whole character. So like, you know, I'll look at this. I won't know exactly what I'm going to be wearing or what my vibe is or my personality. But if I start somewhere like with the wig, I can kind of start piecing together the rest of the look.
So it starts with the wig, and then we create the personality right there.
Not always, but sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. Depending on the mood we're in. Okay, so that was you got wig number 2. Okay.
Yeah, the other ladies, I thought I would just wear them in the rest of my music video.
Very, very nice. You mentioned being in Las Vegas at the Bellagio doing a Marilyn Monroe show. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it was for their New Year's Eve extravaganza, and I recreated the scene in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes where she's got that pink dress on and she's dancing with all of these guys in tuxedos and they're all offering her diamonds and she's saying no, 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 and just singing about how picking and choosing which diamond she likes the best and which guy she likes the best. So we put that on stage in the ballroom for all the high rollers of the casino, and it was just a blast. Like the choreography was awesome. I worked with Infinity Entertainment, and they had the most amazing dancers, and they were picking me up and carrying me and putting me down, and it was really cool. And the band was amazing.
Live music, live band, male backups in tuxedos, the whole 9 yards. Now, did you do a full show, or was it kind of a cavalcade of other actors and actresses that came in and did other acts, or were you the full show?
I did 3 numbers, and that was my main number. And then I was a part of a couple other songs that they did.
Now,
Yeah.
that is incredible. And now, is that show ongoing in Las Vegas, or was that more of just a short stint that they had?
We do that for different events. So it's not like an ongoing regular show. It's just sporadically throughout the year when there's a special event, we perform there for it.
Very, very nice. I know that Marilyn Monroe is one of many things that you do, music being one. Tell us a little bit about how we were inspired to do Marilyn Monroe.
Well, I was performing at this place in New York called the Slipper Room, which is on the Lower East Side.
Mhm.
And it's this burlesque cabaret kind of space. They have all of these really interesting performance artists. And so I was performing, I was doing a piece that I created about Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind. So I was doing like a burlesque act, and I had this hoop skirt that I had made and sewed sequins onto, and I had this cool parasol that I was like doing a little thing like that and singing. And I did kind of a Gypsy Rose Lee act where she just takes off a glove. It's very, very tame, but very sexy and suggestive. And so I did that act, and a friend of mine was in the audience, and she was an agent for this Rat Pack that she would book all around in like great casinos in Atlantic City and Vegas and the BB King's in New York and Times Square. And she saw the show, and she said that she needed a replacement to play Marilyn Monroe because the woman that was playing her was pregnant and needed some time off. So would I be interested in playing Marilyn for the Rat Pack show? And so I was like, well, what do I need to do? And I was very intimidated because these are like Broadway level performers. And so having to like go into that act was intimidating, but I watched video and I learned the act, and that's how I started doing Marilyn.
It's very interesting because it's amazing how, as artists, people evolve. We evolve, right? We start doing one act, and then we start moving into a totally different direction that just kind of expands kind of the catalog of work. One of the things I kind of wanted to focus on was that you talked about that you had created this dress. Most of the time now, was this a costume that you constructed from scratch, or did you kind of modify something? Tell us a little bit about that.
I modified a costume from my favorite store in New York, Halloween Adventure, which my friends make fun of me
Halloween
for loving that
Adventure,
store. Yes. So, I mean, many times if I was bored, I would just go to Halloween Adventure and just like wander the aisles and look at all the cool costumes and stuff that they had. Because, that's the fun for me of being an actor is that escapism of like, well, maybe I'll play this kind of role and maybe I'll play that kind of role. And I'm really extreme. Like I love the fantasy of like playing an astronaut or, I really want to go
Yes, definitely.
there. So I got that dress there. It was like kind of a basic costume. So for stage, it needed to look more custom. So I added to it and modified it and sewed sequins on it and beads and added different pieces and stuff to make it really unique.
And I think that goes into a little more in depth into how detailed you got into this, right? You're looking for characters, and it just happened to be you saw this at the Halloween store there in New York City, and it becomes you've taken that into your own. I mean, it's interesting because in San Diego every year they do the Comic-Con. I've met people who've gone as a whatever Star Wars character or whatever anime, and the amount of hours that are spent creating these costumes, tailor-made, movie quality, like ready to just come off the rack and you're ready to go on screen. It is amazing how these characters evolve. It's absolutely wonderful. So you did that, and then you did the Marilyn Monroe. Now, to become Marilyn Monroe, there's a couple of things about her that one of my favorite films with her, Some Like It Hot, with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, filmed in San Diego at the Hotel Del. Most people think that it would be in Miami because they said Florida, but it was filmed primarily in San Diego.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go to the Hotel Del, there is actually kind of like a historical hallway, and they show large printouts of different movies. Baywatch was filmed there, different presidents, galas with movie stars, John Wayne, whatnot. In fact, on the 50th anniversary of Some Like It Hot, I should have gone. I knew about it, but I didn't make it. Tony Curtis was there, and a lot of the girls that were in his band at the time, Sweet Sue's Syncopators, I believe they were in that. They all came there, and it was an amazing thing. But there's something about Marilyn Monroe, and I think I've seen it in one of your interviews. There's some sort of breathlessness that comes out of her that is just so alluring. It's just unbelievable how she just draws people just like a magnet, so to speak. How did you embrace that? Tell us a little bit about how you kind of go from you into this character.
Well, I watched every single movie she ever made.
I would imagine that you would have to for that kind of reason.
And I worked on her voice a lot. Like I would pick select clips and just watch them over and over again. But something that I struggled with was that she is so breathy. So when I'm doing these events on stage and these live events, how do I project my voice and still keep it that breathy quality that she's known for? So that was something that I had to figure out how to find that balance. And I asked a friend of mine, she was a mentor for me in doing Marilyn. Her name is Elaine Shea, and she has been, she still does Marilyn, a Marilyn Monroe impersonator in New York, and one of the top Marilyns in the country. And so she helped me develop that. So it's kind of like and you're right. Like I never thought of that. You make a good point that in using that breathy voice, it kind of, maybe that was intentional on Marilyn's part to force people to listen harder and like lean in and, come closer to her. And yeah.
There probably was some sort of psychology to it, as because she spoke in this kind of breathy voice, right? Always kind of like, almost like she just ran a marathon a little bit, but it's alluring. And then you're kind of leaning in, which is kind of like psychologically pulling you into her presence. And she had that amazing presence. It was really interesting. I believe it was Michelle Williams. I'll have to go back and check, but there was a movie that came out 10 years ago or so, where it was called My Weekend with Marilyn. And she did an amazing job of just her trying to film in England. And it kind of showed her backstory and some of the struggles that she had, which I thought, I always love the backstory, right? Because that makes them even more human when we follow these movie stars and learn a little more about their history. So as we were talking, one of the things that I discovered in one of our former conversations, I don't know if it was your second or third gig, you are doing a party, and lo and behold, Sir Paul McCartney was there, and you were not aware of this. Can you tell us a little bit about that night? Because I wish I would have been there.
This was the second time I had ever performed as Marilyn, and now years later, I don't even know how many times I've done Marilyn. I wish I had the experience that I have now before performing for Paul McCartney, because I was so green. But it was at a restaurant and I had to come in and do a few songs. And so just when I was about to go on, the maitre d' tells me, "Oh, just so you know, Paul McCartney is in the audience."
Yeah, no big deal, right?
No big deal. And he was the boyfriend of the daughter of the guest of honor. So he was very VIP, besides for being Sir Paul McCartney, just an important person at the event. So I went on. I was performing about 2 feet from him, and I started off singing a cappella, no music behind me, and just thinking like I was.
Pressure.
But yeah, I was
no pressure, no big deal.
Yeah, I was so nervous. I just remember thinking like, am I on key? If I'm not, he's gonna know. But it's not about, for Marilyn. It's more about the visual and the personality. You don't have to be a perfect singer to do Marilyn. That's not. It helps, but that's not really what they're looking for. So yeah. He was very polite and friendly, and so I did a few songs, and then we took pictures.
Were you just look down and here he's not in the back, he's 2 feet in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is most people don't know this, but he has perfect pitch in what he can hear and play. If you ever hopefully one day you're going to have one of those Hollywood true stories or on biography, and you'd be like, my second gig, McCartney showed up, right? So I haven't had that ever happen.
Yes.
So acting, you've been acting for how many years now?
Oh, since I was a kid, and
Right.
my entire professional life. So at least 20 years.
You recently did a movie that we talked about called Rain Falls, a drama. It was a film noir, and where you played the femme fatale.
Mhm.
That's coming out, I believe, this year.
It just came out.
Just came out. Okay.
Yeah. And I won an award, my first Best Actress award
Congratulations.
performance for the Vegas Film Awards.
And this film, could we get a little bit about the plot a little bit? Because I haven't had the pleasure of seeing the film yet.
It's kind of got one of those classic film noir plots where there is this, like, there's a murder. A lot of people are motivated. So it's kind of like a mystery, a murder mystery. And my character is just ruthless. She's the wife of the person that was murdered. And I won't give anything else away, but she definitely uses her seduction to get her way. And it's kind of entertaining for her. She's greedy, but she also likes power. And
Mhm.
so she's very good at playing that game and switching things on and off and manipulating people. And she doesn't seem to have a conscience about any of it.
Definitely a vendetta film
Yeah.
going on here. But how she uses her feminine prowess, if I may say, and also her intellect, mixing them together
Mhm.
to avenge her late husband's death. How do you tap into that?
That's a good question. My way into that was tapping into like the fun of having command over other people and the power that I felt and how fun that is. So that was my way in. And then I always loved to improvise, and the director Richard Poach gave me a lot of freedom to improvise. And one time I shocked him because we had a scene where we had like a kiss, and I decided to just break from the kiss and slap him. Like,
You brought that to the next level, right?
I'm like, well, let me just try one. They can use it if they like. And I shocked the hell out of him. I don't think he liked that.
As they say, he didn't see that coming.
No, he did
Uh,
not.
it's really interesting. I love to watch the backstory, and the documentaries and the interviews. And one of my favorite is when DiCaprio is doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he's in his trailer and he's lost his confidence. And he asked Tarantino, he said, "Can I just riff this?" And he's yelling at himself in the mirror, and he's like, "You got to stop drinking." And he throws his alcohol bottle out his trailer, and he just goes almost into a descent of madness. And it was completely riffed. And I think some of those moments, like yourself, like you're kissing him and then right in the face, right? Wow. It's like because he couldn't have scripted that face if he tried. It was raw.
Exactly. I wanted to shock him. And I wanted to, as the character, I wanted to show him who's boss. And, like that Billy Joel song, Always a Woman, to me, like, oh, she can change if she wants. Like, I'm going to change it up on you. And I'm unpredictable, keep you on your toes. I guess that was everything. But I didn't think of all of that in the moment. I was just kind of like, well, I was feeling that.
So yeah, it was very Billy Joel of you, if I will, if I might say. That's an amazing song. I like how we can use music and other people and other influences just to kind of blend into the character. If you could play any character, right, doing anything, I don't care if you're in space, what would you love to do?
Well, it always changes. It just depends on what mood I'm in. I've always wanted to play a character like in that movie, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell are lounge singers on a boat. So
Mm.
because I love music and singing, I really would love to play that kind of classic iconic character, like a lounge singer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you say that. And there's this one scene in Some Like It Hot where Marilyn Monroe, because she's the singer of Sweet Sue's Syncopators,
Mhm.
where I don't remember the exact title of the song, but it was about how love has like, abandoned her. And she's singing this very sad song.
I'm through with love.
I'm through with love, right? And it has that. Obviously, it was in black and white, so it was film noir-ish, but more of a comedy. And Tony Curtis kind of comes in and he just embraces her and kisses her as she's like giving up on love. One of the great lines in that movie was he talks about how she always ends up dating these tuba players, but she always ends up with like a half-empty tube of toothpaste. She's like, I always end up with the short end of the stick. So yeah, she definitely had that kind of sense in that film. As we kind of a little bit wrap back around to Marilyn. Music, singing, you write your own music, you act. I want to talk a little bit for our viewers today about people who dream of going into show business, don't know where to start, or their fears. And I find this for a lot of us, really everyone, we don't realize how much our fears really impede us from going for our goals and sometimes cripple us and sometimes can kill a dream. You've been doing this since you were a child. You love to act. A lot of actors will talk about how when they were young, they would pretend they were different people. But with people that would want to act, but are kind of, how should I say, hesitant, what would you say to them?
Well, just dive in, just get started. And you can even create a character for yourself. Like not only do I play different characters, but sometimes it helps to think of myself, the actor, as a different character. Like lately I've been doing boss bitch. So like,
Boss
I just
bitch.
yeah, like I get into that mindset. Like I'm a Hollywood actress. Like, yeah, my phone's ringing off the hook. I'm driving here, I'm driving there. I really try to get it's like I'm playing a part. I was very shy in high school because I was very much like in my head and in my fantasies and stuff. When I started in acting class, I remember asking my teacher on the first day of school, how do we get over our self-consciousness? And
Mm.
he just said, just really get into character and live those moments and forget about yourself. You are somebody else. You are the character. You're feeling what they're feeling. Leave yourself out of it. You can never let fear hold you back. That's never the right thing to do, right? Just got to dive in. And if you fall on your face, at least you tried.
There was a quote by a famous inventor, and it's one thing to try and to fail. It's a tragedy to not even give it a shot. And I always think that the best art, the best music, the best film, the best books, they're there in people's minds. They're in the recesses of their minds. They are people that maybe are doing karaoke and really need to go break off from that and go learn to, write their own music and collaborate with people. They're people who, have wanted to do something, maybe write a script. And it was interesting. I wrote a script. It's copyrighted. We'll see where that goes. But it was in my brain for 5 years until I said, that's it, no more. This is the year that I'm going to write it. And what I find in our lives is when we just put a certain amount of consistency and commitment into building whatever we're trying to build, before you know it, the ball's rolling. And sometimes the ball becomes bigger than us. It's amazing when you look back and like, I did this, and I did this. But I think for most people, the hardest thing to do is to start.
And another thing that motivates me is just knowing that we don't really have a lot of time here. So you might as well do everything that you want to do. Don't wait for anybody to hand your dreams to you on a silver platter. You got to get out there and make it happen for yourself. And there's so many different avenues these days with social media to build a fan base, and there's so many different ways to be creative, work with your friends, and just try to have fun with it. That's what it's about. That's what, when it's your calling, when you have fun doing it. then you know that that's what you were meant to be doing.
So true. And it was interesting. It makes me think of the story of Arnaud Pignata from Journey. When Steve Perry was gone, Neil Schon, the guitar player, was looking at people doing karaoke. And here's this man out of the Philippines who was spot on. And lo and behold, I can't even imagine the feeling I get. The guitar player of Journey says, "Hey, would you like to audition?" All because he got out there and did Steve Perry, and he's, the rest is history. Erica, it was absolutely a joy today, and I want to wish you all the best in your career.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you. And I love your show, and good luck with your script.
Thank you,
Congrats
man.
on getting that out there.
All right. This is Ricardo Del California. Thanks again for watching my show. Thanks again for watching the show today. And if you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. This is Ricardo Del California wishing you a good day.